this was Jacob Wolf's story. I'm kind of disappointed in myself a little bit because I had this story myself on the 27th, 28th-ish of December, but I was just getting shit-faced. I was just like, it's me. No one else is going to have this stuff. It'll be fine. I'll put it out there. But I was too busy partying. I was like seeing everyone, you know, family, friends. You know, they're all kind of all over the country now and not in one place. So I had to do a bit of traveling. Was down at Malvern and that kind of thing. You know, so I was just drunk. I was just fucking drunk and fat. And anyway, Jacob got this story and good for him. Great to start the year strong. And this is the news that the Saudi state-backed esports World Cup will indeed be hosting a League of Legends tournament. Now, you'll remember all of the praise that was showered on Mark Merrill and Riot Games, right? They were saying, oh, say what you will about Riot Games and the fact that they are just pawns to China because they're owned by Tencent and the Chinese government literally owns a share of it as they do with all big corporations and it can exert disproportionate influence at a moment's drop. But anyway, everybody was saying at least they didn't sell out to Saudi. That's what everybody said. At least they didn't sell out to Saudi. Now, prior to December, I think it was in November, I can't remember the exact date when it was, it's not really relevant, there was a big gathering. Do you remember that big esports gathering I talked about on a previous stream, where it was, you know, NIP were there and, you know, blah, blah, all these, like, people, all these org owners, and they were all out there, and they were all meeting with everyone. Well, my little birds told me that there were Riot executives out there, and Mark Merrill went out there as well. And I was like, right, listen, this is fine. Like, I know what's coming here. So I was keeping my eye on it. And then when I got it, I was like, right, okay, you know, fucking, I'm going to tie it into all this other stuff. Because League of Legends is going to be a part of this Esports World Cup. And lo and behold, Jacob publishes the story. And all of that praise, all of those League of Legends fans, yeah, you got hoodwinked. You got duped. They were always going to sell out to Saudi. You have to remember, this is the same company that when the Neom deal nearly went through and there was a talent boycott because they were going to try and announce a Saudi Arabian mega city project sponsorship in Berlin Pride Week, you know, they were like, the optics of this are terrible. I don't think we should do this sponsorship. And so Riot had a Brexit on it, and they said, we're not going to do it. But in my reporting, what did the NA officers say? They believed they'd done nothing wrong. They just believed the only problem was the timing. And so they were always going to revisit a Saudi Arabian deal. And as I've said, by the way, you might not see Neom in esports, although I don't see why not now. It's kind of irrelevant. Saudi's bought everything in one way or another. But you'll get Qiddiya instead, which is just the same thing. It's another mega city project. That one's dedicated to entertainment. It's probably being built on stolen land. I haven't looked into it. But it doesn't really matter because it's still the Saudi Arabian state that persecute people from certain minority groups and mow down immigrants at the border. Use them for target practice. So I don't know, guys. Maybe it's a bad thing. But anyway, Riot Games have decided that it's not a bad thing and that, you know, we're ready. We're going to be part of this Esports World Cup. Now, a little history lesson as to why this matters and why this is important. Riot haven't historically allowed people to have tournaments like this. Essentially, 2 teams from each region is going to go to the Esports World Cup to create some sort of national diversity. And so it ties into the Esports World Cup theme. And so what you're getting is essentially worlds. You're getting worlds. Now, as anyone who follows League of Legends esports knows, Riot Games have deliberately kept international play as limited as possible. It makes Worlds a big deal. It guarantees they break viewing records every time that Worlds occurs, but it comes at the expense of all the league products that they run are insipid and boring and the same games over and over again. You do get an MSI, but it's not as big as Worlds, and you do get All-Stars, and essentially down the years you do get these light little smatterings of international play. But Riot have always kept them scarce by a deliberate business choice, despite fans crying out for more. And so Saudi have come along and said, do you want to be in this? And Riot have gone, abso-fucking-lutely. And keep in mind, why is this crucial? Because Saudi are paying for everything in these tournaments. And as we're about to get to, they're paying more money than you would actually think. You are going to have League of Legends involvement in Saudi Arabia, which is ridiculous, frankly, because it working with the Saudi Arabian state flies completely contrary to all of the values that Riot Games have talked about. This is a company that very publicly has said it supports LGBT causes. Now they're trying to retcon what it means to work with the Saudi Arabian state. Same as everyone else. Same as on that last stream, that head of the Norwegian esports federation doing that batshit interview where they exist in a quantum state of being where it's actually okay to work with Saudi Arabia and have tournaments there, but we cannot guarantee the safety of the participants if they're in the LGBT community. And it's like, well, you know, the bare minimum for an esports tournament has to be the fucking safety of the participants. Like, can we at least agree on that? Well, apparently not. No, we can't agree on that. So, Jacob reached out for comment, like good journalists do. I found, actually, I'll read you a few of the details here, because it's kind of, you know, relevant to your interests, I suppose. The specific format for the event has not been announced, but it's expected esports organizations will compete across multiple games title for the crown of the esports World Cup champion. What they did at Gamers 8 was every org that entered a team or a competitor into a tournament, they earned points in a giant leaderboard, and then the best organization got a giant cash payout. And there was a leaderboard also for social media engagement, wasn't there? Remember that story I did on the Substack in 2023? Team Liquid did a video kind of semi-apologizing for participating, because obviously they have done lots of work in, you know, in Pride Month, and again been vocal supporters of the LGBT community. Then they used the tracking hashtag to monetize the apology, knowing it would be controversial. And they earned more money for just where they finished in the social media leaderboard than they gave to the charity by way of an apology. Do you see the game now? But I just still cannot believe to this day that these esports owners are literally trying to retcon everything and trying to have their cake and eat it. They want that cultural capital. They want that cultural capital of being able to say, I support the right thing, while simultaneously working with people that kill the people you claim to support. It's non-compatible. You have to fucking pick a lane and stay in it. I'm not going to let you do both, guys. With my dying breath, I'm not going to let you do both. No chance is this ever going to fly on my watch. And to the esports fans that are above 80 IQ, the 5% here, it's not going to fly on your watch either. And I know you're going to call these people out. And you should never stop beating that drum, by the way. Credit to a colleague, Sideshow, who's obviously been on the podcast. I think I might have been on a stream with him at some point. It's all a bit of a blur right now. But anyway, he did a video, which you should all go look into. It's essentially a distillation of all the things I've been talking about and the problems with trying to raise awareness about this issue. And I would wager for somebody like Sideshow, potentially disqualifying from his entire career. It's a hell of a risk to talk about Saudi Arabia right now if you work in certain games. Of course it is. Counter-Strike, wholly owned by Saudi. But you've got Blast. Well, yeah, okay. United Arab Emirates over there, I suppose. But let's wait. Let's see if they revisit their Neon deal in the future, or maybe they pick up a Katia sponsorship. But ESL, the ESL Face It group, they're the big show in town. They're 80% of the calendar. You're publicly on record saying, I don't fuck with the Saudi Arabian state. You're probably not getting hired. By the way, also, what did I tell you was going to happen? End of 2023. I said, mysteriously, despite there being no real reason for it, Falcons are going to end up in these leagues. And what they've done this time is, for ESL to get them into Pro League without raising too many eyebrows, they've used the Ents Cause World Ranking as the Falcons World Ranking, despite the fact that they are different and distinct teams. Meanwhile, Blast auctioned off the expansion slots in their partnered league that's getting shut down in a year for, I believe, $300,000 a slot, a drop in the bucket for Falcons. And wouldn't you know, Falcons just happened to be one of the teams that they decided to pick. Out of all of the people who offered, it wasn't that they were outbid, they were a set price. So isn't it amazing that Falcons were one of those teams? It really makes you think. So if you sideshow, and you're speaking out about that, well, you can't take that lateral move to Counter-Strike. Oh, but don't worry, he's an Overwatch guy or a Valorant guy, right? Well, now Riot Games are in bed with Saudi Arabia just for League of Legends now, but probably it's going to be Valorant as well. I'd be amazed if Valorant somehow didn't feature in an esports World Cup. I mean, why wouldn't it? That's the game you want to promote. Well, wouldn't, you know, it seems great. People are complaining, by the way, there's too many gaps in the Valorant season. So watch this space on Valorant, but also Overwatch. Well, Sideshow's an Overwatch guy, isn't he? Well, Overwatch, Activision Blizzard, or now Microsoft-owned Activision Blizzard, they're in talks with the Savvy Games Group, owned by Saudi Arabia, to take over all of their tournaments and run some tournaments in place in lieu of the Overwatch League. So Sideshow speaking up and talking about that stuff, he might have just he might have cut himself off at the knees career-wise, and not enough people do that. So I totally fuck with that, totally respect that. You should go and watch that video, and you should show him the support it deserves. And yet, same for the journalists, Jacob Wolf, James Fudge, Kevin Hitt, I believe, has done some work on this. Obviously, my colleague from outside the world of esports, Kareem Zidane, he's got his own Substack now. Go and support these people that are talking about these issues, because they are going to be hurt financially. Like me, I'm lucky. I had my own community before I started talking about these things. I know you're all a bunch of ride or die guys. And how do I know that? Because we've had ups, we've had downs, and most of you are still fucking here. Right? And we're growing all the time. Still incredible. Unprecedented levels of growth. You know, fucking 12 years into a streaming career. So go and support these people, and because they are going to need that support. Anyway, back to the tournament. The event has also been working with content creators on advertising, including the likes of former Call of Duty pro Seth Scump Abner. Now, by the way, here's a little spoiler that you won't know. Scump likes me, and I like Scump. And we've talked, and I had a real rough time last time I was in New York. I had a full mental breakdown. And Scump was there, and he saw it. And he was a lovely guy, and he was really helpful and really nice. And we hung out, and we had drinks. And now, with that said, I'm going to very delicately call him out and say he has been, of course, advertising the Saudi Arabian World Cup. My good friend Hex, you know I fuck with Hex, he said on a stream with Scump that Mohammed bin Salman had a kind face. You know, murderers often do, I guess. You know what I mean? There's been some very stupid stuff that's gone on in the promotion to this, but it will all be forgiven and it will all be swept under the carpet, because ultimately the new justification, you're going to hear two justifications publicly. The first is, and this is as critical as it's ever going to be from the people that want to make money out of esports, they are going to say, what can you do? It's too much money. They own too much. How can I say no? If I was to say no, I'd have to pack up and stop what I'm doing. By the way, spoiler, that is what you are supposed to do. It's like if one day you're a government clerk and they start saying, yeah, we're putting people on fucking trains. You know what I mean? And you go, well, it's the government. No, you conscientiously object. You do go to prison. You know what I mean? You do risk your life for the right thing. Morals and values and principles, it's the only thing that really sets us apart from the fucking beasts. So you have to embrace that. You have to lean into that. Your principles and your morals and your ethics are the most important thing in your personality makeup. I really believe that. Because without them, what are you? And they can be different to mine. But be what you are. Don't be two things or half a thing. The other thing you're going to hear, and this is, and I know that you're going to hear this because people are already saying it, you're going to hear a lot of, but look, if we go to Saudi Arabia, if we have League of Legends out there in Saudi Arabia, if we have Overwatch out there in Saudi Arabia with Tracer, there's nothing they can do about it. It's forcing them to engage with gay characters. It's actually going to move the football. You are not going to change the Saudi Arabian state's view on these issues because it is a theocracy. It is tied to the codified set of rules they believe requires that they have to follow in order for them to get to paradise. It's one of the toxic remnants left over from religion. It's why theocracies are fucking shit. You, a corporation, you're not moving the dial on this. You cannot offer them eternal paradise. You can offer them a Tracer skin. Also, stop telling that lie, because if that were true, why do you remove canonic details of your own characters so you can sell those characters and sell skins for those characters and sell comics or whatever it is in the countries that don't want to recognize that gay people exist? Why is that? So don't tell me that, because your cowardice has already been proven publicly. But they're the two lies they're going to tell you all. And there's only one response when you hear these lies: a jaw-breaking yawn, and then get back to posting about what fucking unethical, moral cowards they are. Because shame works on these people. Jacob Wolf continues, Riot Games is currently working through the details of how League of Legends will participate in the event. It will allow 2 teams from each of its domestic leagues, the NALCS, the LEC, the LPL, and the LCK, to participate in the event. But Riot themselves will not pick those organizations. So you know who is going to pick the organizations? Imagine this. Riot Games. What is the one thing Riot Games have historically been known for throughout their entire existence? What is the thing they value above everything else? It is control. There it is. There you go. Man, my chat, you're on it tonight, right? PPT in the chat saying, is it stealing intellectual property? I mean, foundationally, yes. But anyway, control. It's what they value above everything else. More than farting in employees' faces. They value control. They want control. And they've never surrendered it. Never acquiesced it for a second. And yet, for this tournament that is going to be highly anticipated by the League of Legends community, will be one of the most viewed tournaments at the Esports World Cup in Riyadh, they're not going to be directly involved in saying which teams have to participate. So who will be? Well, I imagine it has to be the Esports World Cup. The Esports World Cup will issue invites to preferential teams, i.e. the biggest ones, and then they're going to go. So Riot isn't even going to have any form of curation on this whatsoever. It's going to be handled by an external factor. That's like unprecedented. And then it goes on here. Also in the email, the head of esports global strategy, Chris Greeley, asked each league to hold all activity during the first week of July to make way for the Esports World Cup. That week is also Riot's annual employee summer break, coinciding with the July 4th holiday. The email also outlined dates for the mid-season invitational, which will take place in May, ending on May 19th. That event is reportedly returning to China for the first time since 2016. So, first of all, this level of coordination with the Saudi Arabian World Cup is unprecedented from Riot. I don't know if you know this. Every single room Riot executives have been in, they're the big swinging dick. I have seen things in esports, guys, that would turn your stomach. I have seen people who like to act like they're big, tough esports executives who make decisions, right? Soon as a rioter walks in the room and they wanted a bit of the League of Legends scratch, they acted like pussies. Mr. Merrill, sir. Mr. Beck, sir. It was absolutely ridiculous. What can we do for you, sir? It was absolutely insane how they would debase themselves, right? Total bitch made. They did this all the time. And by the way, if you ever want to know how we got an industry filled with monsters and people who would abuse women or be discriminatory or sex pests or whatever it is, if you want to know how we got that, it's because other weaklings enabled and encouraged them the whole fucking time. We all knew the rumours about many of these people. It was only fucking Muggins here who used to say stuff privately. Like, listen, you might not want to hire this guy. I've heard some shit from after parties, and, you know, people would then go, oh, but what, Richard exerting influence again? Yeah, for that I think I might. How many years before the Cecilia story was I talking about those issues at Riot Games? You were all here for it. Did anyone listen? No, he just hates Riot. So anyway, Riot Games are fully handing over control to the Saudi Arabian state on this, on the Esports World Cup. They are telling everyone else in the ecosystem, whatever you do, don't fuck up this opportunity. Keep this week open in case you're invited by our new glorious partner, the Saudi Arabian state. Wow. What a time to be alive. Now, I'll just read you the Riot statement, because it's classic Riot speak. It's a typical Riot PR strategy. We know fans have been... This is what they said to Jacob. We know fans have been asking for more international and cross-regional tournaments, and while these events wouldn't be operated by Riot, we think they could be part of delivering on that request, in addition to the competitions we produce. We've been in conversations with various tournament organisers, including the Esports World Cup, about unlocking teams' participation in such events. We're in active exploration of these opportunities, including if and when they can fit within the 2024 calendar, but nothing has been confirmed at this time. Now, first of all, isn't it amazing? Just coincidentally, we were talking to loads of other people, not just Saudi. A little bit of history first, just so you know how much fucking bullshit this is about that they're doing it for the fans. Because some of you might be new. I do see a first-time chatter every stream now. So, when League of Legends came out, you couldn't go to an esports event, and this is when I was active. This is when I was in the motherfucking trenches. I was an esports reporter in 2009. I went to everything. We send Richard out there, do interviews. I was going to tiny lands in Denmark, middle of nowhere in fucking Sweden, Finland, fucking big gaming conferences in Germany, you know, like just France, the arse end of France, not even Paris, just like... You're out in the middle of fucking nowhere. You're at Shalwar or fucking somewhere, you know. I went everywhere. I went to all the Intel Extreme Masters. I went to all the ESL events. I was everywhere. And I couldn't go. I used to go to the I-Series. I used to go to Epic Lands. Small UK lands. Everywhere I went, there were rioters swanning around in these red t-shirts, because they literally all used to dress the same from the top down. Executives used to wear those Riot red t-shirts back in the day, and they would go to these events and they would say to people, hey, do you want to run a League of Legends tournament here? And they would go, well, you know, it's like a new game for us. We don't usually do it. We don't really have an experienced admin team. And Riot would go, we'll give you the staff. We'll give you the staff and we'll give you some prizes. They used to go up to casters and streamers. They used to come up to us. Again, I'll never forget. I was sat in a circle of what in 2010 were OGs. So I don't know what they are now. And Joe Miller and D-Man were there because they used to like me back then. And they would talk to me. And even though D-Man was the Call of Duty caster and Joe Miller was a fucking 1.6 and Counter-Strike, just a Counter-Strike legend, both of them from the Quad V school of incredible casting talent that obviously included like Jay and Red Eye and fucking Tosspot and Houdini and a bunch of other people I'm drawing a blank on, so I apologize. And we're all sat round in this circle and fucking Joe and D-Man are wearing League of Legends t-shirts, not Counter-Strike t-shirts, right? And they'd already, obviously, at this point, been hit up for the job, and they were saying in the circle, like, listen, it's going to be big, and I was going, Babby's first MOBA, it's going nowhere, it's a shit game, what are you talking about? And they're going, oh, Riot Games have big plans, they got big plans. And I'm like, listen, mate, if you're telling me a shitty MOBA is going to be bigger than Call of Duty or Counter-Strike, you're fucking smoking crack. And I was wrong on that one, to be fair. Massively wrong on that one. Sometimes you just walk away from a conversation holding a fucking massive L, and you can never go back in time and not be on the L side of the conversation. But that's life, you know? Anyway, they'd given those guys t-shirts, hats, merch, streamers, free skins cards. They used to have the little cards on with the heroes on. And you scratch the code off the back and you put it into the client and you got free stacks of those. They were going up to all of the fucking, like anyone that was an influencer or a streamer. Remember, it's like 2010. So it's all still new territory, all the tech. YouTube's just taking off. Twitch is just taking off. And they're going up to people and they're saying, hey, do you want to play League of Legends on stream? This is how they fucked over my mate John, Total Biscuit. They had a program where if you got people to sign up, there was a threshold where they would put a unique item named after you in the game. And John was so big at the time, and he pushed that game so hard and helped them hit these unbelievable milestones. And then they didn't give him the item. He had to fight them for ages. And then he said, you know what? Fuck you, actually. And so he started streaming and promoting Dota almost exclusively. Yeah, sorry, it's not even an item. It was a champ design. And then as a way of an apology, they put the Total Biscuit of Rejuvenation into the game. That was their way of an apology. You're right. Thanks for correcting me. It was a champ design. In the end, when he was diagnosed with cancer, I do believe John. I think he gave it to a kid. I think he said to like a fan, some kid. I can't remember. Again, I can't remember the full story. It's just a different world, and I've bashed my brains in since then. And he said, like, you know, you can have it. Because that's just who he was, man. He was just a great guy. Anyway, what's the point of this insane, sad trip down memory lane all of a sudden? Well, look, the point is you couldn't go to an event without Riot being there. And they used to encourage you to run a tournament if you were a tournament operator, if you had a LAN. They would give you the staff. They would give you the money. And so all these LANs started running these tournaments for them. DreamHack had one. ESL had one. iSeries had one. Everyone everywhere was running. MLG had them. Obviously, we had great tournaments like IPL and stuff like that, right? Then Riot Games turned around and said, "Yeah, we're making our own partnered league now, where we decide who's in and out, essentially, and only us will run tournaments. They will be the only tournaments, the only place for professional play. We do not give you a license to use the game anymore." And then they said to a couple of partners, they said to ESL, "You can have League of Legends as long as you never put it adjacent to Dota," which is how we ended up with ESL 1. And they said to MLG, "And you can have League of Legends events, but they must be roadshow games from our LCS league." So in other words, one fixture would be played, and that would be the MLG event. They completely pulled the plug on all of that, completely fucked over every single promotional partner that helped make their game popular. That's what they did to everyone. I'd never seen anything so cynical in esports at the time it happened. And yet, here they are now, expecting you to believe they have decided, just out of the kindness of their heart in 2023, right? They've just decided now is the time, actually, to start talking again to tournament operators and have an open circuit running adjacent to our leagues. Bull fucking shit. If you believe that, they're selling you a bridge in the morning, guys. They're selling you the Statue of Liberty. There's no fucking way. It's what's happened is, coincidentally, the Chinese market has been continued to go through the pandemic. There's been a bunch of changes over there. Lots of opportunities are coming in. It's their bread and butter. They're never gonna not have they're owned by a Chinese company, for fuck's sake. And Saudi Arabia and some other, to a lesser extent, other oil producing nations have decided to put their vast wealth into esports at the same time as everyone else starts losing money. So that's why this is significant, because it is unprecedented. Now, to the second part of this story, and one of the reasons why I was slow getting it out. The Esports World Cup, it is run by Ralph Reichart, because esports is just a layer cake of corruption and conflict of interest now, and there's no going back. We're never going to fix this. All you can do is opt out, or if you have the stomach for it, you can stick around and protest it, knowing it's not going to do anything, right? So Ralph Reichart, again, for the uninitiated, founder of ESL. He was the co-founder of ESL, the Reichart brothers. And then, obviously, Jens Hilgers helped propel it into the business we know today. I've met Ralph, like all the people in esports. I've met everyone, right? And I've got nothing against the guy, even though he is a ruthless fucker, right? But you have to be a ruthless fucker. You had to be a ruthless fucker to survive in early esports. So, I get it, I suppose. But what's gone on here is the Saudi state by Savvy Games, via Savvy Games Group, by ESL, Faceit, DreamHack, ESEA, all of that jazz. They don't buy Blast. They don't think they need to. They've just instead recruited key people from Blast, right, which I talked about was going to happen, and they've diminished Blast's expertise and, by extension, their product. It was a very lackluster major, wasn't it? For just being honest. So, that was their strategy. But now the Saudi Arabian state wants to control more and more, as I said they would. They don't want this to be a free and open exchange of ideas and competition. No, no, no. They want to make sure they are in complete charge of every little facet of it, and they can buy it. So why not? So they did, and they bought the Esports World Cup brand to rebrand over the top of Gamers 8. Gamers 8 is a festival, and Gamers 8 doesn't sound very esportsy, but they don't want to change Gamers 8. So now they're rebranding the esports component, the Esports World Cup. So it's just Gamers 8. That's all it is. What was Gamers 8 last year is going to be the Esports World Cup in 2024. Now, who do they get to run it? Just coincidentally, they take somebody from ESL, the Saudi Arabian state-owned company, and they go, hey, Ralph, fantastic opportunity for you over here at this other Saudi Arabian state-owned company. So what do you think the crosstalk's going to be when it comes to the teams that are partnered through mechanisms like the Louvre Agreement? What do you think that's going to be? You know, hey, want to participate in the Esports World Cup Counter-Strike event? Oh, no, you just are. 100%. No one's going to object. I've already proven that. So anyway, here's the next part that you're not going to believe. And I talked about it on the stream a little bit last time, but now things are coming into sharper focus. And again, this is all just out there, and people are not putting the dots together. This report that Qiddiya is launching its gaming and esports district. And what does it say at the bottom of this? The district will be split into 4 distinct sections, focused around a main stadium with a capacity for 73,000 spectators, never filling that for esports, particularly in Riyadh, and the largest indoor LED screen among all esports arenas in the world. And it's going to be, from what I've been told, it's going to basically look a lot like the Vegas Dome. The district will also host up to 25 esports clubs from around the world to live, train, and compete. Now, 25 orgs are going to live, train, and compete in an esports-themed super city in Saudi Arabia. I wonder which teams. I wonder which orgs have already agreed to this behind the scenes, right? I wonder which partners, you know, are going to be doing this. And you know what? It's great. Because what do you get? You get a state-of-the-art training facility like the one Complexity had built for them, right? You get that. And you get it for free. And players get to live out there and train. So now you're getting free boot camps every time you want. Right? All of these vast expenses associated with an esports team. Don't worry, the Saudi Arabian state will underwrite them for you. And it gets worse. And this is the part where this isn't out there yet. But this is what I'm working on at the moment, and I'm probably not going to get it out in time, so fuck it. Do you want to know what else they're doing? The Esports World Cup. They are giving... This is serious. This is where we're at. They are giving stipends to orgs to pick up teams. And these stipends are up to $600,000 in some cases. And so, have you noticed how everyone's broke in esports right now? And what's happening is you are seeing orgs pick up teams that don't even make sense. Like, I'm watching certain orgs who are broke, supposedly, and they're picking up Dota teams. And they're picking up Dota teams from a region they're not associated with. And they're picking up FGC competitors. Like, wow, it's a bit weird that, right? The numbers that are being swirled around are all different. This has been part of the problem. Not to mention, when you're talking about a business venture that's owned by a state that kills journalists, people are a little bit cagey about talking about the details. But, you know, I've heard 100,000 for picking up an FGC guy. I heard 300,000 for picking up a Dota team. And they get the stipend. And do you know why they're paying the stipend? They're paying the stipend to ensure that the World Cup event is filled with the teams and the players of orgs that they want to work with. So in other words, it's mind-blowing. Esports used to run on a you pay to enter and win prizes basis. Then it became, it's free to enter and win prizes, and we'll try and monetize it through sponsors, and we'll try and monetize it through viewership. We have now entered an era with the Saudi Arabian state where they are paying you to play at their tournaments to ensure their tournaments have the best in attendance. And so orgs are flocking to get a piece of this. And they are picking up teams and players and whatever else, all so they can go and compete in this Esports World Cup for 45 fucking million. By the way, good luck sorting out that conflict of interest, guys. The tournament operator is paying for the team that's going to enter to potentially win the prize from them. And so people will say, in criticism to this when it goes on YouTube, they're going to go, Richard, but Riot Games pays a stipend to the orgs to participate in the leagues. How's this different? Well, obviously the key difference is, one, it's the Saudi Arabian state doing it. But essentially now there is a difference with the developer sort of encouraging you to play their game for marketing purposes. This is for the explicit purpose of obfuscation of what the Saudi Arabian state does. And it's not just that, actually. It's not just the sports washing thing, because I think the sports washing concept, it doesn't really stick to some people's brains. But let me also tell you, and I talked about it on the Esports Gospel again in more detail, but let me also tell you, do you know what the Saudi Arabian royal family fears? They have a very young population. I think it's something like 68% of the Saudi Arabian population is like under 30 or something. And they're a very, very young nation because they have big families, lots of kids. And so you have a young nation of people that have appetites and desires that, you know, they can go and get in the West. They want certain types of entertainment. They want certain types of fun. Now, if you go and look at what happened in Iran, Iran had something called the morality police, which, you know, that's a term that got co-opted in the great culture war of 2015. What was what we used to call SJWs before we called them SJWs. No, it's the morality police. It was the PC police, then it was the morality police, then it's SJWs. But the morality police in Iran is a very real thing, and they are empowered by the state to go around, and it's not laws. It's like if a woman dresses immodestly, if a woman has her hair out in public, not wearing a scarf or a niqab. And what happened in Iran, the morality police took a young girl into custody after she'd been accused of one of those charges, and she got beat to death. And so the Iranian people had enough at that point. They were like, this is ridiculous. We are sick of living in a theocracy where these morality police can act with impunity, kill girls, and there's no reprisals for it. And you probably missed it because it was against the backdrop of Qatar, the Qatar World Cup. The Iranian team went there and they didn't sing the anthem in the first game. And you know what happened back home? Their family members were imprisoned and threatened by the state. People who stood in solidarity with them were arrested on bogus charges about attending fictitious protests. They locked up artists. And so people rose up and they fought back, and there was bloody violence on the streets. People were extrajudiciously killed, just murdered, because people said enough is enough with this bullshit. And you would know more about it if the Western media wasn't a fucking corrupt joke. Because every time there's an uprising in one of these countries, it should be front page news, and you should all hear about it, and you should want to show solidarity for your brothers and sisters in other countries that yearn for freedom. And it would also remove lots of the Islamophobia relics of days gone by, because you would understand that The biggest victims of Sharia and Islamic theocracies are Muslims. But the media don't want you thinking about that. So they don't report that. Instead, Donald Trump made a tweet. Same way they ignored the Yellow Jacket movement in France. They ignored the Arab Spring. They don't want you getting ideas in your head over here. That's especially not allowed. If you see a bunch of Iranians doing it, you might start thinking about it yourself. So we'll keep that off the news, actually. Fucking sickens me. But anyway, back to the point. Sorry, went into a political stream there, didn't it? The Saudi Arabian royal family is looking at that. And they're going, not happening. Right, women, you can drive. Keep it under 40 though, yeah? You women, only 18 and younger have to have chaperones in public now, yeah? LGBT, we're just not going to talk about it. You know, we're still going to arrest people and kill them under false pretexts if they're gay, but, you know, we're not going to talk about it. We're going to do that. Oh, and by the way, have some wrestling. Here's 2 women wrestling. Here's some of the best soccer players that we can lure over here. Here's Jordan Henderson. He wore rainbow laces, didn't he? And the Saudi Arabian people go, yeah, actually, we're not like those other theocracies. No point in rising up today. And that's the game. And now esports is being used as a vehicle for that. Not just a vehicle for that, one of the principal vehicles for that. Don't you feel dirty? Do you think those people feel ashamed? They should, but they don't. And they're going to keep doing it. And they're going to keep lying to you. And they're all going to take that money. So, just pay attention in the coming weeks, because apparently they're officially announcing the stipend program on the 16th, is what I got told. So keep an eye out for that, and remember that you heard it here first. Keep an eye out for all of the orgs picking up new teams and new acquisitions and all that stuff, because that's what's going on. And all roads in esports are going to lead to Riyadh and China. They're your choices. If you're an ethical consumer of esports content, you're kind of fucked.